Hello, I'm the Angry Spork. Earlier this year, I covered the remainder of the first wave of Amalgam Comics, which leaves us with the All-Access era. So we're going to start by looking at...
Hey, brah!
What is it?
If this is your year of the crossover, why haven't you, done any crossover reviews with, other reviewers, brah?
Well, there are a lot of reasons. Namely that I don't personally know any other reviewers, and scheduling would probably be pretty hectic, and I don't want to put anyone through that.
Oh, well, you knew me, brah.
Since when are you a reviewer?
Oh, sure, 'cause you went to a magical special school that taught you how to complain when your favorite character gets screwed up, or a plot doesn't have any sense to it, brah.
No, but I do have this diploma from the Xavier Institute for Higher Learning.
Please, can I do a review with you, brah? Please? Brah?
The offer is as appreciated as it is suspicious, but I prefer to work alone, especially if I'd be working with someone that once stole my glorious face mane.
You still on that? Let it go. It was years ago, brah. You know what? Fine. Be that way. I never wanted to be on your review show anyway. I just wanted to say things.
Well, with that out of the way, let's begin taking issue with more Amalgam Comics by cracking open Challengers of the Fantastic #1, and see if these merged universe comics make us want to turn the page, or turn our heads. See, it's got my name on it and everything. It's legit. The cover sees a large metallic hand crushing the ground, and narrowly missing the titular heroes. We see Johnny with a fancy flamethrower, Reed with Doc Ock's arms, Thing with a couple extra arms. They crossed over with Ben 10 before it even existed. That's impressive. And Sue aiming a gun at the largely off-screen threat. Whether she's more angry at the attempt on her life or what was clearly a bad day at the hair salon is up for interpretation. Written by Carl Kessel, with art by Tom Grummett, Al Vey, and Joe Rosas, the first page is some introductory panels to the team in various acts of daring do, and some beakers, all framed around an hourglass which is emblazoned on their uniforms. A testament to what truly brought them together. A shared love of Boggle. We flash back to a secret space mission, where Reed Richards confirms the success of a special shielding to protect from cosmic rays. Yeah, it's more or less the traditional Fantastic Four origin, though Ben Grimm is a senator who says that once they land, the president wants their success broadcast on a TV show called Heroes. I'm surprised that got a second revival. I liked Hiro Nakamura too, but geez, some shows just gotta end. Victor Von Doom, who's monitoring the mission from terra firma, is irked that Reed will likely be glorified for his shielding, allegedly only perfected with Vic's participation. So after the crew returns, they have a chat, and I'm just kidding. He presses a button that causes malfunctions on the shuttle. After a crash landing, they're all miraculously alive, and Sue suggests that with their second chance at life, they should better mankind by challenging the fantastic. With this new lease on life, let's intentionally do things that can drastically shorten it, all the time, beyond all kind of reason. Admit you're an adrenaline junkie, Sue. It's the first step to recovery. They're all in agreement, and put their hands together. Hey, doesn't this almost look like an hourglass?
You are a fistful of stupidity.
No, it doesn't, Johnny. Even if you squint after rubbing your eyes a whole lot. And we're not supposed to be doing that in 2020 for... I said no rubbing the eye. Ben makes a remark about being on borrowed time, but if they wanted the hourglass symbol to hold more meaning, I think there had to have been a better way to show it. Anyway, the story proper begins with deteriorating negotiations between Kragoff of Gorilla City and Wakanda, ruled over by its king, Bronze Tiger, who basically looks like Black Panther trying out some minor changes to his wardrobe. And who thought it was a good idea to let one of the apes have a gun? Senator Grimm's pager beeps, and he has to leave for something more important. heading to Fantastic Mountain. While one could be forgiven for thinking it was the name of a theme park, it's actually home to the Cadmus DNA Project, as well as the Challengers HQ. Reed, aka Prof, is discovering a parallel universe with superpowered sports stars when Sue, also known as Ace, tells him there's a new mission. Johnny, or Red, is totally phoning in his video game because he's lamenting a relationship that can never be, so decreed by Viken the Black Bolt, who looks like Marvel's Black Bolt from the Inhumans merged with Black Lightning.
Bolt, lightning, as synonyms go, it fits in a weird kind of way. Maybe when he speaks a single syllable, he charges the cell phone of everyone in a 10-mile radius.
He's also called to the mission and joins the other two guys when they meet up with Susan, and they all seem compelled to remark on what is apparently a sudden change of hairstyle, but it's unrelated to their task at hand, so no laying waste to Bo Ricks. Yet. No, the most fantastic threat in Earth's history has to do with Uatu the Guardian.
Man, Smurfs grow big in the Amalgam Universe. The song is worse! The song is much, much worse!
Apparently, in a previous adventure, Uatu lost his marbles, but the team took on the fantastic challenge of curing him, so he's indebted enough to break his vow of non-interference to give them a warning, in as dramatic a fashion as possible.
Galactiac is coming.
Though if he's anything like 616 Marvel's Uatu, he'd probably break his sacred vow for KFC accidentally giving him an extra biscuit with his order.
Galactiac, the ultimate synthesis of mind and machine. Galactiac, he who drains the lifeblood of planets to recharge his energy cells. Galactiac, as old as time itself, as powerful as space is vast.
Galactiac, who clicks thumbs down on videos he doesn't actually watch. Galactiac, who never chips in for pizza when his friends invite him for game night. Galactiac, who thinks the Big Bang Theory is an accurate representation of nerd and comic culture. Monster!
Since their enemy appears to be cybernetic, Ben Rocky Grimm suggests they go to their resident expert, June Masters. Sue is wary since she's the daughter of a supervillain that's tried to kill them, but she also cured Reed of his evil DNA infection. Hey, call back to the previous year's Spider-Boy. On the following page, she's already input the data of the team's task into Computo to find out their chance of success. Galactiac will fall when a challenger dies.
You think maybe she forgot to carry the one when calculating dramatic tension and contrivance?
June wants to join them, thinking her expertise could be of some help, and since Ben had already said she was an honorary team member, this seems like a good opportunity. Despite his guilt over causing her blindness, he scoops her up and the five of them are on their way to the Baxter Building. When they arrive, they find Dr. Octavius and Spider-Boy's press agents unconscious, at the hand of the Asgardian avatar of death, the Silver Racer, who is basically Silver Surfer with a cape and skis.
And I have no words. Sure, it looks ludicrous, but this is comics, so I have to ask myself, is it any more ludicrous than riding a surfboard across space? Though, if he's some kind of soul-harvesting figure, a la the Grim Reaper, does that mean he takes them to a divine ski lift to heaven, if they're good? Or if they've lived a life of sin, he just pushes them down an ethereal Matterhorn to hell?
Razor here says he is here to claim a life, but he only knocked those three out because they attacked him. He tells the challengers to get a move on and head skyward, maybe because he's as eager to get this whole who will die shtick over as quickly as we do. The next splash page, beginning Chapter 2, because it totally makes sense for a 23-page comic to have chapters, sees Galactiac constructing something on the roof.
Don't be too hard on him. Building things helps him keep busy enough so he's not dwelling on that ugly divorce he's going through. Times have been tough for the guy.
Reed tries reasoning with the giant, saying he could find an uninhabited world to feed off of, but Galactiac clarifies he doesn't destroy every planet completely. He chooses a section to miniaturize and preserve for study, and today he's chosen New York City. He also set up a heavy energy shield to prevent anything, including communication signals, from entering or leaving the area until he's done. Someone should call LaGuardia. This is going to be a heck of a layover. Uatu contacts Johnny telepathically, telling him he's the only one that can take a risky task, giving the Earth a chance to survive, and requiring taking on the most fantastic journey he's ever taken. He accepts and either disappears or explodes, I'm not sure, while June is pleading for the racer to help the challengers. He doesn't decide who lives and dies, but he does forget her name is Masters, not Master. As the blind woman pleads that he must understand how precious life is, she reminds him of who he once was. Meanwhile, the intergalactic threat is being reported by the news, and can be seen from the window of Dr. Doomsday, who I guess is already plotting some new scheme as Ben Grimm starts messing with the alien machine. Galactiac retaliates with I-beams, but instead of destroying Rocky, he's turned into what we saw on the cover. The Thing, give or take a couple appendages.
Remember, this version is a politician, and this way, no one can claim he doesn't believe in the right to bear arms.
On top of the mutation, he's also a minion of the Planet Eater now, so he attacks his allies. With the floor ripped up beneath them, Reed and Sue begin falling and enact Plan Command D, a more subtle reference to an infamous bunker in DC, as we go to Johnny in some weird black void, using the fire weapon on the cover to shoot down beta ray bullets. And yes, his video game skills were part of why he was chosen for this. He gets within visual range of a large device, which he now must fire upon and ultimately nullify it. A bit of a stretch for a reference, but I'll allow it. Back at the Baxter, Sue is making the great decision to taunt Ben, and so he smashes her with the Fantasta-Wagon. Fortunately, she's protected by a force field belt, but I guess a souped-up Winnebago was too much for it because it shorts out after impact.
Get a cheap force field generator on eBay, I said. They're all the same, I said. Half the cost goes to putting a brand name on a box, I said.
Reed pulls her to safety using Doc Ock's mechanical legs and lures their enraged friend closer to the roof, so his rampage goes right through the shrinking device. Galactiac is ticked off enough that he prepares to end his minion at the same time that Johnny fires at the mysterious device, and Silver Racer declares his intentions to end the giant. After a flash of light, and captions from Reed wondering where everyone is, he sees Ben in the rubble, back in human form and thankfully alive. As for Galactiac, he's motionless until his backups kick in and his head ejects, so he flies away to exact revenge later. After Ben suggests to the Prof that they find a way to let him turn into the four-armed thing but with his mind in control, June, the blind woman, carries Johnny to the roof. Unfortunately, Computo's prediction wasn't exactly wrong, as Red's miniature clone was the one we saw fire on Galactiac's neural junction, dying in the process. As for the Silver Racer, he's incapacitated and his gear stolen by Dr. Doomsday, flying above the city with the power of an avatar of death.
Next stop, the Bunny Slope. Now we'll see who needs improvement, Instructor Chad. This comic had its share of odd silliness, but the threat was a good one, nicely combining the motivations of both Galactus and Brainiac. But the dialogue can leave something to be desired.
Reed's frequently used catchphrase, "I'll be amalgamated" or "super amalgamated," felt more awkward than anything else, and repeated use of the word fantastic once is an understandable reference, but twice is pushing it, and they go well beyond that. Seriously, don't make a drinking game out of it, or the alcohol poisoning will do you in. I'm not familiar enough with the Challengers of the Unknown, so I couldn't say for sure what, aside from nicknames, they contributed to this fusion. Probably the lack of powers in the tiny clone, whose death I couldn't really feel much of anything for. There wasn't a whole lot to distinguish him, or anything, basically. He felt like his only purpose was to die, so the dramatic tension could feel justified. If it was the clone doing the work, then where was Johnny? Why was he teleported away, and why did he look like he'd gotten beaten in an alley? I did think it was a little interesting they went with a version of Ben Grimm that wanted to be able to turn into a giant rock monster, if only to help them on missions.
I wouldn't call it a bad comic, really, but there was nothing there that overly thrilled or excited me. Maybe because I've never been the biggest Fantastic Four fan, And possibly because I have never read anything with the Challengers in it. Next, we look at the exciting X-Patrol.
The cover sees the team defeated at the hands of, according to the caption, Brother Brood. Though the portion I find most concerning is, why does Niles Cable's suit have nipple tusks?
On top of looking like a general hazard, even by 90s design standards, they look impractical and pointless. Except for the points. Did he want to make sure he always had somewhere to put his keys or something? I've heard of wanting a place to hang your hat, but this is ridiculous.
Written by Barbara Kessel, with art by Brian Hitch, Paul Neary, and Joe Andriani, we open to Niles and Shatter Starfire battling the Cult of Brood, something investigated by the red-headed warrior because she saw a girl named Terra X turn into rock and crumble away. Turns out that was her mutant power, so she probably just escaped any danger. Niles tells her that she needs to think ahead before rushing into a fight. As it is, their situation is looking pretty unwinnable. He orders her to leave and gather the rest of the X-Patrol, leaving the telepath at the mercy of the Broodlings and the one controlling them, Brother Brood, who intends to make Niles one of his monstrous underlings. Next to follow, the island of Zenosha, which they're currently on, and then, of course, the world.
I know it sounds, at first, like a really awesome idea, enslaving everyone to your will, but come Christmas time, you'll have billions of presents to buy. That's not getting into all the soccer games you need to attend, recitals, participation trophy ceremonies. You really have to consider if world domination is really worth all the trouble.
Returning to the team's base, Corey explains that Niles' telekinesis overpowered her flight and forced her to flee, but she's certain he's still alive. Zenosha is an anti-mutant state that doesn't allow foreigners, so getting in will be tricky. Jan has an idea, but some of the other X-Patrollers are untrustworthy of their stony new recruit Jericho. He insists he's no traitor and will risk his life for the team, and Janet vouches for him, though it's implied they may be romantically involved. Beastling reminds everyone they had a rather unpleasant incident involving a couple characters named Hawk and Dagger, though Husk gets them back on track, and they all head out on their rescue mission on a 2-page spread, each character getting a descriptive caption just in case you forgot their deal from the previous year. While Jan and Hank discuss the plan of rushing Get Niles Rush Out, Jericho is asked how he knew about the Brood, previously thought to be a modern myth. I guess this is info he divulged in between panels, since he never mentioned them until now, being very cryptic in his warnings to avoid being assimilated by them. Despite his sudden appearance on the team, Janet feels she can trust Jericho with her life, which might not be for very long if she doesn't watch where she's flying.
Whoa! Close call. Those mountains really sneak up on you, don't they?
Cable, meanwhile, is chained up and moping about his failure, but is met with Ravenia the Healer, his old flame appearing as a vision, who reminds him of his various mentors in the future. Though I question how vividly he remembers them since they all kind of blend together in dark blue coloring. Anyway, Ravenia reminds him that before she died, she left a piece of her soul self inside Niles, which he can use to cure himself of the Brood implant, but if he does that, he risks succumbing to the technovirus he's already fighting. He's just having difficulty deciding which option will be the least damaging to his team.
I know one of them is covered by our health insurance, but I can't remember which one!
X-Patrol drops into Zenosha, arriving at the very cavern Shatter Starfire last saw Niles. Janet says her psionic rapport with their leader should lead them right to him, and Jericho says he can sense the future man as well. Although at first suspiciously empty, the cavern is soon swarming with broodlings, and in the middle of the fight, they find Niles' empty chair.
Attention shoppers, there's a hover chair in the Brood Cave with its headlights on. I repeat, a hover chair in the Brood Cave with its headlights on.
And you know, from this angle, the X on Jericho's suit looks an awful lot like a 4, which only adds to his resemblance to the Thing. Man, he's all over this episode today. Anyway, the team sees Brother Brood announcing to the hive mind creatures that they have a new host to add to their collection, which, considering they're more or less drones, I have to think he really just likes hearing himself talk. Maybe he's changing his voice, brah. You know, spice things up and sound like someone different.
This is not a crossover review. And that's just ridiculous. Who would do such a thing, honestly?
As the team advances, Bro Brood summons another minion from a funky pool, Terra X the Destroyer, a clever combination of Terra from the Teen Titans and Terra X, whom we saw briefly in the Green Lantern Silver Surfer crossover. Shatter Starfire confirms that's the girl she saw get captured, and Pharaoh Man informs her that Terra X betrayed them to a villain known as X-Stroke, and nearly got them killed.
So, was this an adventure that happened when the warrior princess was away? Did she go on vacation? Was she waiting for a bus to take her back to headquarters? Whatever the circumstance, why did no one inform her of any detail about this supposed treachery? If you're going to shout out to the Judas contract, at least show some consistency.
She knocks most of the team aside, facing off against Jericho, who pleads for her to fight the Brood influence, only for Terra X to fall unconscious in pain. It was Jan having attacked from within Terra's ear, though the speech bubble explaining that detail trails off panel, so if it wasn't her speaking, then whom? Whatever. Dial Husk, having transformed into the archer Artemis Knight, trains her bow on Brother Brood, and by her dialogue it looks like they amalgamated Hera with someone with S in their name. Not sure why, since the Greek pantheon has been used by both companies, but maybe they just wanted to confuse readers and think she was referring to She-Ra. But I digress. It was an empty cape meant to distract them, so Brood can startle them from behind and gloat about converting the rest of them.
Not to sound like I'm siding with the villain here, but no attack? No taking advantage of the situation at all? This seems like a real wasted opportunity. There are rookie villains who wouldn't make this mistake.
Elasti-Girl goes giant and demands to know where her paraplegic main squeeze is, only to be swarmed with more broodlings. Husk's skin wears off sooner than expected and needs Piotr to cover her. And of course we need to have Beastling make a crude insinuation about the two potentially being an item. I know that's just part of his personality, so one's mileage may vary on it, but he doesn't seem to be doing anything in the panel. If he were fighting or something, okay, but devoting a panel to another innuendo is puzzling and seemingly pointless. Jan hears Niles speak to her telepathically, but it was actually Jericho, having called her by accident. Then the team is hit with an attack from Cable himself, struggling to fight the Brood influence. Jericho tells the team they have little choice but to attack their chief, otherwise the resultant future will have Brood-infused mutants ravage the planet, and humans hunting all mutants out of revenge. And it's noted to be very suspicious how prescient this guy is of events yet to be.
I frequent a lot of conspiracy theory sites. I mean, yeah, almost all of them are total nonsense from bored dorks wanting to feel important about their dull lives, but this one essay on the Brood actually spoke to me in a real way. Honest.
Brother Brood then mutates into, well, a Brood, and gives the standard join or die ultimatum, which gets the standard rejection. Niles attacks the team in one fell swoop, but Jericho seems to be a telekinetic match. Until that is, his exterior is blasted away, revealed to be Niles Dayspring!
I'm seeing double here. 4 crusties!
This leads Cable to believe he's got a decent enough replacement, so unleashes the Soul Self to heal, not himself, but Brother Brood. Not only does it lead to an odd progression of dialogue that makes it seem as if Husk is the one attempting the act, killing the Brood leaves the host overcooked. If that's healing, then I really do wonder what the team's health plan is like. The technovirus begins overwhelming Cable, and it is just 7 flavors of messed up right there. As he's saying his goodbye to Janet, Dayspring says he can hold the virus back, but the Brood implant is another matter. So this is a perfect time to berate him for lying to them as Jericho while asking for their trust. Ravinia appears once more, saying this isn't the time for her old flame to punch his ticket, and the team decides they should skedaddle even if the Brood don't have much fight left in them. Dayspring declares his older counterpart all healed, saving him, apparently, from being a new queen. So goodbye to all that tension that they established a page or two ago. The threat of Brother Brood's dark future is eliminated, and the final panel is of Beastling delivering a pun, which I'm not sure is supposed to be ominous for the never gonna happen next issue, or him just being him.
That was exciting X-Patrol. And while the premise was fine and it had its moments, exciting isn't exactly the word I'd use.
It has decent enough stakes, the team's leader in danger, the threat of the Brood, and the chaos they lead to, and I thought that while they were hinting well enough that Jericho was an alternate version of Niles, that he's basically Nate Gray was a very good surprise. Though being exuberant feels like too much of a stretch for the X-Man reference. However, in some cases, when the characters were talking about established events that we aren't privy to, it felt a little clunkier than I've seen in previous Amalgam comics. Brother Brood feels like an empty villain even after transforming, not really doing much except pontificating, but I suppose one can attribute that to having a loyal subject to do all the fighting for him instead. I wouldn't call the book awful, it's just that the second half felt like there was an uncertainty from the creators as to where to go and what to do. Maybe that's why there was a bonus pinup at the end, because they didn't have enough story for even one more page.
It wasn't a chore to read, but at the same time, it didn't feel all that engaging. For all the other Amalgam comics that have really cool stories and really work with the concept of these merged characters really well, you're bound to have a few clunkers that, even if they have the lived-in feel that they all share, it just doesn't feel as effective. I'm the Angry Spork, and man have I got issues.